firstborn in a Buddhist temple while her husband, Daigo, renounces the Buddha and decides to join the side of evil. A man stabs a dagger into the back of a monk guarding the hall of the underworld and performs a rite of summoning. His lands are plagued by terrible famines, endless epidemics, and wars that claim the lives of his subjects. The man wants to make a deal. If the demons will protect his lands and make him ruler of this country, he will give everything he has. A terrible thunderstorm breaks out in the city. Daigo goes back to the temple to see his newborn heir. The boy is alive, but born with terrible defects. His eyes, skin, and limbs are missing. Daigo realizes that the deal has been struck and asks the midwife to carry the creature away. The midwife grandmother decides to float the unfortunate creature down the river. She puts the boy in the boat when suddenly, a huge spider-like demon grabs and eats the woman alive. A blind hunter pounces on the demon and hacks the monster to pieces. The man senses something alive floating down the river, but cannot determine its origin. The Daigo lands, exhausted by famine and epidemic, finally saw their heyday. The little body, too weak to utter even a squeak, quietly disappeared into obscurity. There was not another soul on earth aware of the incident. 16 years have passed. A little boy named Dororo sells crockery and fabrics at the local market. The boy, taking a job as a guard for the local dealers, has stolen their goods, and now he is being persecuted for it. The men beat the boy half to death, and notice a strange boy standing on a bridge not far from them. The boy looks at the mountain of garbage approaching the shore. The mountain comes to life and begins, one by one, to eat the men who mocked the boy. When it reaches the boy jumps off the bridge and engages the monster in combat. The samurai throws off his prosthetic arms, beneath which are implanted swords in his joints. Having quickly defeated the monster, the boy approaches Dororo to retrieve his prostheses. The boy notices that the rest of the boy's body, as well as his hands, are made of wood. Daigo enters the hall of the underworld and notices that the statue of one of the demons is split in half. The man has already had a second heir. However, this boy is healthy and strong. Dororo goes after Hyakkimaru. After fighting that demon, the guy's mask flew off his face, and within seconds, his disfigured face grew real skin. Hyakkimaru cannot see or hear Dororo. But still, there is one thing the boy could see from birth: the flame of the soul burning in people's hearts. By the color of the flame, the guy can tell the difference between hatred and hostility and kindness. Also, the guy has superhuman senses and physical strength. Because of this, he has been able to survive the darkness that has enveloped him since birth. He allowed Dororo to stay by his side because the color of his soul didn't indicate danger, and this soul itself did not pass him by, but decided to help the boy in his difficult journey. It was the second soul in his life that had done so. Dororo brings Hyakkimaru to the village, and arranges with the local community for his buddy to exterminate the monsters plaguing their settlement for a decent fee. The deputy headman invites the young men to spend the night in his barn. A strange creature with a huge head enters the barn, endlessly repeating the same question. The boy is frightened by the monster, but Hyakkimaru does not react in any way to its presence, because the creature's soul is pure. The next morning, the village chief invites the young men to his chambers. Meeting Bandai, Hyakkimaru draws his blades. Dororo forbids the lad to attack the innocent woman. The council rushes to the noise and, upon seeing the armed lad, decides to lock the gang up in the barn. There, too, the young men meet a blind old man. The man tells Dororo about his ability to distinguish human souls, and the boy realizes that his new friend probably relies on similar sensations. The lights go out in the barn, and the blind men begin to sense the presence of the monster. They get out through the well and go back to Bandai's chambers. Her soul is blood red, and beneath her flesh hides a horrible-looking demon. The deputy headman helped Bandai the whole time by feeding the wanderers to the demon. Otherwise, the woman would have devoured their entire village. Hyakkimaru pierces the woman's forehead with his blade, and she finally leaves the village. Hyakkimaru writes his name in the sand to new acquaintances. The man recalls that he had already felt this boy's soul once before. Then, at the river tributary, 16 years ago. After defeating Bandai, another sculpture collapses in the hall of the underworld, and Hyakkimaru's body recovers even more affected tissue. Dr. Jukai is a military doctor who creates artificial prostheses for the wounded and the dead. One day, according to the parishioners, his assistant Kanabe learns some terrible information about the doctor. The man served Shiba. During the war with his clan, Kanabe's father died. The boy leaves Jukai's house. The man wants to stop the boy, but stumbles and falls off a cliff. When the man wakes up, he finds the kid's mutilated body in a boat docked on the shore. A year later, Daigo has his second child. He doesn't know that his firstborn is growing up and becoming a practically full-fledged child. The new limbs allow the boy to train and lead an active life. There is a strange but mysterious power in the boy, an incredible thirst for life. At the age of 6, the boy experienced his first true evil. Demons, sensing Hyakkimaru's power, opened a hunt for him. Junkai trains the blind boy in the art of war, eventually making his skills perfect. The guy starts fighting monsters alone, and after one of these fights, the kid suddenly grows a lost leg. Demons don't just eat people. At times, they mislead them into letting them use their power, taking something precious in return. Junkai realizes that the demons took the boy's body parts in exchange for such power. Junkai releases the boy into the world so that he can finally get his body back. Hyakkimaru has been standing motionless in the pouring rain for an hour and a half. A mutilated man passes by and asks for help. Hyakkimaru senses the presence of an evil soul nearby and follows its trail. An elderly man pounces on the boy. His mind is possessed by a cursed sword, thirsty for blood. In one blow, the sword stabs Hyakkimaru in the prosthesis, and the lad immediately throws him off the cliff. The man goes after his sword. Dororo goes down to retrieve the prosthesis. The boy tries to remove the cursed sword and is subjected to demonic spells. The elderly man's sister finds his exhausted body and brings it to the temple. Meanwhile, the sword, discovered by Dororo, tries to find its former master. Hyakkimaru finds the boy, and exposes his blades, hoping to get rid of the ill-fated weapon. The man recalls how, in the army, his master forced the heads off the shoulders of innocent people. The more the instrument was soaked in blood, the sharper the sword became and the more ruthless its master became. Hyakkimaru knocks the sword out of Dororo's hands, after which the old man grabs his weapon again. The boy has to poke the man right in front of his sister. He had no choice. The sword would find ways to return to its master time after time. Another evil spirit is defeated, and the boy gets a hearing. The sound was the most shocking of all that Hyakkimaru managed to bring back. The cacophony in his head never stopped. He didn't know which sounds, of all the ones he heard, he should listen to, and which ones he shouldn't. He drowned in a sea of sounds. Dororo wants the boy to take a break from fighting, but the demon, who suddenly appeared in the form of a bird, does not let the boy do that. It gets harder and harder for the boy to fight, but a blind old man suddenly appears from the forest to help. Hyakkimaru wakes up to the beautiful singing coming from the river valley. The boy is very weak, most of his body is restored, so he feels all the pain from his wounds. Mio takes the wounded lad and his company to the temple shelter. The old man takes to the road to find a safe haven where there will be no fighting. With each destroyed statue, there is more trouble in the city of Daigo. War is coming and the fields without rains are once again no longer yielding threats. Mio's singing is the only thing that doesn't irritate Hyakkimaru's ears. The girl sings for the young man, and meanwhile the blind old man returns to town. The man has found a safe place for them to move to, but there is one big problem. A monster now owns the place. A weakened Hyakkimaru goes into battle. A huge bug tries to drag him into his underground lair, but the guy stabs his sharp blade right into his neck. In the fight, the guy gets his voice back, but loses his leg. Mia goes to work, and Dororo decides to follow her to keep the girl out of danger. The little boy discovers that this girl with a beautiful voice is satisfying the local military in order to maintain her shelter. A battered Mio returns home, and notices a blood trail leading to Hyakkimaru's room. Tahamaru, Daigo's second son, wants to go to war. The boy dreams of distinguishing himself in battle to finally receive praise from his mother. The boy realizes that there is something in her life that she cares about much more than she cares about him. Mio fears that because of her actions, Hyakkimaru will see her dirty soul. However, she doesn't know that to the blind boy, she remains the person with the most pure soul he has ever met. Mio goes to work again. Dororo feels sorry for her, but is not the least bit ashamed of his friendship with the girl. The boy is sure that when the war is over, the girl will surely be able to make all her dreams come true. Hyakkimaru wants to finish the battle with the demon. He didn't finish it last time, so he saw it as his duty to return, even though he managed to get his voice back. Surprisingly, after the fight, the guy's leg grows back again. Dororo notices a column of smoke looming over Mio's shelter. They go back and see a bunch of samurai standing over the lifeless bodies of their friends. The samurai saw the girl offering her services to the various clan camps. They decided to deal with her because they suspected the girl of espionage. Suddenly, a vengeful beast awakens in Hyakkimaru and cuts to pieces all the samurai responsible for the death of the sweet